12:10.
Okay, so we're a couple minutes early. So anyway, but that's all right. We can start early, and they'll catch up. That'll give us a chance to build the audience. So we're doing this. Those that have come before, we do this Facebook Live, and I want to give a little short promo for that. So if you want to present to your business, not your business, this isn't a sales presentation, but if you want to teach the group something, or you have something that would be of general interest to the business audience, this is an opportunity for not only you to do this as a group, but we upload this video onto, we're going live on Business Growth Network on Facebook, on that Facebook page. So that's where you can go find it. You should follow that group. You should like and follow that group if you haven't already.
And turn on notifications.
And you'll turn on your notifications to be notified when this group goes live. And then if you're not here on a Friday, you can get notified. You can see it live.
During lunch.
What's that?
Right during lunch.
Right during lunch. And if you are not able to see it live, it will be recorded and be on the businessgrowthnetwork.org. Now, also for those in the Richardson Plano Networkers group, and that means somebody that's physically come to this meeting is one of the 705 people, we also are sharing that after the fact to the Richardson Plano Networkers group. That's a closed group. So if you haven't opted into that, those of you on the Richardson Plano Networkers, be sure and do that, because we're going to be using that more and more for communications, and actually we're also going to be using that for, we're going to come up with a thing, and I've got to talk to Mark and Jen. We want to come up with a thing where you can put a little blurb or your little 30-second or little short promo for your business, even in the group, like you would do if you're here in the group, just to kind of give you an opportunity to educate the group a little bit. I don't want it to be inundated with that, but we're going to figure out how to do that with some amount of balance. So I think that's enough of the housekeeping. We're close enough to 12:15, so welcome to the Facebook Live audience. Today I want to introduce Elliot Jolesch. He has a massive amount of experience in growing businesses and technology and all kinds of stuff, Elliot. So I'll let you share a little more of your background, but we're excited to have him. So applaud yourselves for your introductions, and let's applaud Elliot for sharing with us today.
Thanks very much. First of all, I want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to present here. We're going to try not to cover everything up. There's my contact information. Again, my name is Elliot Jolesch. I'm born and raised here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so I grew up here. Left the area for about 20 years, came back in 2009 to no job. So spent 35 years in IT, so I have a technology background, but I'm also an accountant by degree, and I have a master's in management and a master's in MIS, which kind of now is what everybody calls IT. But in 2003, 2004, I kind of got the coaching bug. I was working with a coach. He had just gone through some training and had gotten his master's degree in Atlanta somewhere. He and I are still good friends, but somewhere along the line it became part of my bucket list. Took me 10 years, thereabouts, before it came to fruition. But in 2011, the opportunity was right for me, and nobody would hire me too. So at least from a W-2 standpoint, best decision I ever made, of course, was to open my own practice. And I've got coaching materials that will cover everything from entrepreneurship, from team leadership, executive leadership, process improvement, which is one of my areas of specialty. And then about 2 years into the whole process, I discovered I didn't know enough about marketing to figure out how to get more clients, something that we all want to do, get more clients, make more money. At least I hope that's what everybody's here for. So I started researching. I found a program. I went through the program. Took me almost a year. And I liked the program so much that I bought into the program. And now I'm offering marketing for other small business owners, anywhere from a solo entrepreneur up to a larger company. I mean, my sweet spot generally, or my niche as I would like to call it, is probably some company that's got 10 plus employees and makes $1 million plus a year, wants to make more. That doesn't mean I won't work with a startup. They're just different rules of the game, because startup is a whole different type of situation. So if the company's less than 2 years old, I apply all the same processes, but I apply a different set of rules. we changed the way we charge so that there's a benefit because smaller startup companies have a harder time paying the bill. I always tell a coaching client potentially that if you're looking at me as an expense, you're not ready. I'm not an expense. I know that's hard to believe because you see that money going out and you always can't, but your return on investment is what you're looking for. As I've told people, if you pay me $1 and in return it gets you $5, would you turn that down? So, surprisingly, some people do. One of the biggest issues that I always run into with people is a twofold process. One is, and let me get a clarification. Is everybody in here in sales?
Yes.
All right. Well, that's the right answer because yes, you are. No matter what you're doing, you are always in the sales capacity. Whether you're looking for a job or actually working for a W-2 company or working for yourself. Now, how many, just out of curiosity, are there anybody that gets a W-2? Okay, so we all have 1099s or self-owners. That's good. So, and nothing wrong with a W-2 job. So one of the things I always tell people that they have to do is I says, you've got to know what your niche is. And everybody says, I'll ask somebody, okay, so what's your niche? Or who do you sell to? And the typical answer I get is everybody. Well, that's not your niche. Everybody, yes, potentially everybody could be a salesperson. But you need to define who are you going after? Who is your ideal candidate? And if you don't have that defined in your own mind, you need to sit down and spend some time. And sometimes I tell people, you got to spend hours on it. You got to figure out who am I going to sell to. So, if you're a Mary Kay salesperson, you're going to be selling to somebody. Your typical ideal client might be a 42-year-old woman with 3 kids and a husband, and she may or may not work, and she doesn't have time to go out and go. So you build this character, and that's who you do all your marketing towards. And the more alive you can make them, the more real you can make them, the easier it is for you to do your marketing. So one of the things that we've come up with is the 5-step proven profit formula for doubling your profits. And you can take any one of these steps that we're going to go through, and we're going to go through them pretty quickly because I only have about 20 minutes because I want to leave some room for questions.
Okay.
And I have this full presentation. If I go through the entire presentation, you'd miss appointments. It takes about an hour and a half. I do several presentations that are on the 90-minute side, but I took this and I started working on this, and I got through it a little bit, and then about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, I was telling John, I says, this was starting out that everybody knew what I was talking about, and I said, let's go back, and I want to start you off with the 100,000-foot view. And then if there's an interest, I can either come back at another time and we can dig deeper, or you can contact me and I can sit down with you all and give you a little more in-depth presentation. So what are the 5 steps? So we're going to kind of brush through these very quickly. Lead generation. Now what is lead generation? That is any way you get another prospect. Okay, recognizing that everybody out there in the world is a suspect to begin with. They could be a potential prospect, but you need to make them a prospect. So how do you do that? Lead generation can be anything from direct mail, it can be Facebook, it can be advertising in any way, shape, or form. It can be landing pages. There's tons of different ways to do marketing now from a lead generation standpoint. But now once you've got your lead generation, you have to have a conversion rate. And if you don't know these numbers in your own business, you need to sit down and figure them out. Now what's the conversion rate mean? It means if I hit 1,000 people, and we'll go into this a little more detail. If I hit 1,000 people, how many of that 1,000 could become potential clients? Then we have to increase transactions. So are you the type that you go in, you sell something to somebody and never talk to them again? Do you sell a product that is a one-time only product? There are very few one-time only products. And if you do sell a one-time only product, unless it's a very high ticket, you need to find some more products, in my opinion. And then you've got average sales value and profit margin. And the profit margin is, how do you increase that profit margin? If you're selling a solid project, an inventory type item, you may be locked in, but the question I always ask, can you raise your prices? Are there other things that you can offer to increase the value? which will actually end up giving you a better bottom line. So, again, all small business owners want more clients and more revenue. Anybody disagree with that? Okay. Just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
I think that's why we're all here.
I hope that's why we're all here. So what does it take to produce more clients, which is what we were talking about? And you have to generate leads. You must convert those leads into clients. And then by breaking down the end result into the vital components required to generate them, you can put together a specific strategy and plan of action. One of the things that I have discovered in talking to people about marketing is everybody does a lot of marketing, but they all do what's called tactical marketing. They don't know what strategic marketing is. Strategic marketing is the idea of building a plan on how you're going to attract your clients. The tactical marketing is the actual doing of that work. It's the same thing as when you build a strategic plan. You build a strategic plan for your company, you're building a roadmap for where you want that company to go. Strategic marketing is the same way. You have to have a strategic marketing plan before you have a tactical marketing plan, if you want it to make sense. I know a lot of companies that do tactical marketing and then can't figure out why they don't work. I was reading on one of the Facebook pages or groups that I belong to that talks about marketing. This another coach got a envelope in the mail from a company. It had all sorts of information on it. It had no return address. It had no contact information. He has no idea why he got it or how he got it. So basically, in his mind, and I would agree with this, it was a waste of money. Look at pieces of mail. I mean, now, are there pieces of mail we get that are wasted? Of course. How many direct pieces of mail do you get that the first you see it? Oh, trash can. You know, everybody now just you go in there. You said there's a trash can right here. Don't you know? That's the way of the thumb. And for some companies, it works because by repetition, they think they'll eventually get a sale. So here's an idea I would suggest for all of you. You take a little chart. You've got leads, conversion rate, customers, number of transactions, your average sale value, total revenue margin, and profit. And you set a baseline. This is what you typically expect to have. So if we start with 1,000 leads, conversion rate is 25%. That gives you 250 customers. And you get out of those 250 customers, you get 10 transactions over a month, over a year, over whatever. And let's say you have an average sales value of $100. So you've got a total revenue of $250,000. And your profit margin, we'll say your margin's 25%. So you have a net profit, not counting all your other expenses, of $62,500. Now, what happens? Let's increase that by 10%. Anybody have any ideas? And we're going to increase everything by 10%. Just look at the idea of what would happen if you just increased one of these by 10%. So if I increase my leads from 1,000, 10% would be 1,100. Now, if I take my conversion rate and increase it by 10%, I get 27.5. Customers would increase to 302. My number of transactions, if they went up 10%, how many would that be? It'd be 11. But average sales value, if I increase that by 10%, it's $110. Anybody have any idea what that does to the bottom lines?
Makes you very profitable.
It makes you very profitable. So by 10% increase, you went from $250,000 in revenue to $365,000 in total revenue. If you increase your profit, your margin from 25% to 27.5, well, we're at 10% right now. Okay, that takes you went from $62,500 to $100,000. Now I've got an example here. It says, now here's the other issue: 10%. Could we all increase one of those items even by 1% every week? And after a year, you've increased it by 50% then, if you increase it 1% every week? So what does that do? So your 1,000 at the baseline went to 1,500. Your conversion rate goes to 37.5. Your customer base goes from 250 to 562. You now have 15 transactions instead of 10. Your average sale becomes $150. Your total revenue becomes $1.2 million. Could we all deal with that? Your margin goes to 37.5%. And anybody have an idea what your profit becomes? Almost $500,000. So but if you don't know these numbers, you don't know how to work towards them. I had a client, a friend of mine who could or could not become a client, and it's up to him, not to me. He asked me a question, and he's looking at the idea of going into his own business. And he said, do you think in the business I want to go into, can I make $70,000 a year? And I asked him, where'd you get that number? And he came out of a corporate world, and he's still thinking in corporate terms. My question to him is, why can't you make $700,000? All you have to do, though, is work backwards. You take that number you want, okay? So he wants $700,000, okay? What's he charge for his transactions? He takes that number out. Now he knows by dividing that into the $700,000 how many transactions he has to have. And then you figure out how many transactions per week, month, whatever time frame you want. The bottom line is how many, you get two numbers. You get how many clients you have to have, and figure out what's your conversion rate to tell me how many people you have to attract just to get to start presenting. And recognize, in my business, for every 2 or 3 people I talk to, I may sign one. And it runs about 10 to 2. So I'll talk to 10, I'll sign 2. But that signing process can take anywhere from 1 week to 6 months. I've got one client I've been working with just barely over a year. And it was probably a year and a half I worked with him. Just talking on and off, staying in touch. If you've got your own business and you're marketing something, you have to stay in touch with your client base. The easiest customers to sell to, again, are customers you've already sold to. They're your low-hanging fruit, in a manner of speaking. But if you don't talk to them, except when you're ready to get them to buy something, it becomes more complicated. I highly recommend newsletters, blogs, some type of contact information. If you use Facebook, create a Facebook page, a private group, and all your customers go into that, and you can keep them of what's new, particularly in your product line. That's always a good way of attracting attention. Send out a newsletter. Because everybody, and I'm going to go into a little more detail. I don't even know how my time is. I have not looked at my clock.
You're doing good.
Everybody know what a drip campaign is? Anybody not know what a drip campaign is? So a drip campaign is it's just like it's basically an electronic version of a direct mail campaign. A direct mail campaign is somebody will set up a series of cards and you'll get one a week, one a month, one every cycle, something like that. Drip campaign works the same way electronically. It's can be a little simpler to do because there is software out there that you can pre-program. So somebody comes up, you always have to give value. People always like stuff for free. So create a list, create something you can give away. Top 10 reasons why you need a business coach. Or if you're in the moving business, top 10 reasons to look for the best mover in town. Create a list. It's a free thing, something you can give away. My guess is if you're a specialist in your area, it'll take you an hour or 2 to write something down, another couple hours to polish it and make it look presentable, create a PDF. Now you have a free report or a list. Then you go out and you create a funnel page or a squeeze page, as they're called, to direct people, and then you put an ad out on Facebook or anywhere else that people might go to look at your product line. Get this free list on top 10 reasons of what you should be looking for when you hire a mover or something of that nature. And the goal is to grab an address, You want an email address and a name. You can or cannot ask for a phone number. It's up to you. Sometimes you'll get it, sometimes you won't. And then you start the drip campaign. They get their free report. You don't hand it to them there. You mail it to them. That validates the email address. And then every day, every week, every month, whatever cycle you want to do, you send a message out. And it's all automated, so you don't have to worry about it. One of the other areas that I always run into issue, and I looked at this and I said, well, let's pick something that people are always afraid of doing. And it's right here. You're selling something for $100. And I'll sit down with you and says, well, let's raise the price to $105. I'll lose all my clients. If I raise my price $5, I'm going to lose all my clients. Let's look at that. I cheated here. I pre-did this. Here, come to this side. Is that better? So, I went too big. So let me give you the scenario. I run a health club, okay? The lights went off.
I know.
It's $60 a month. I currently have 300 clients, okay? So I'm making $18,000 a month, and my profit margin is 25%, so I'm taking home $4,500. Now, this is a great health club. I'm giving them fantastic service. But I decide, it's suggested by my coach that I raise my prices $4. Yet I'm terrified. If I raise my $4, if I raise my fee from 60 to 64, I'm going to lose all my clients. Anybody have any idea how many clients I would have to lose of the 300? Not just to stick at the 18,000? Anybody guess? The number will be staggering. So, okay, so the price went up $4. I'm going to offer new value service. I got brand new towels or something. I've got something else I can throw in there. So I'm going to go up $4. That's 6.67% increase. My net profit's going to go up $1,200 a month. It's assuming I don't lose anybody. And it also assumes I don't gain anybody. I'd have to lose 63 clients not to increase my bottom line. If I lost 63 clients, my original net profits would still be at $18,000. And am I going to lose 63 clients? Typically, no. Yes, now, if I raise my price 50%, you might have a bigger issue. But even then, which would you rather have? Would you rather have one client at $5,000 a month or 10 clients at $500 a month? I would rather have one. I'm getting the same dollar value, but now all of a sudden my time just became freer. I have more time to do more things. I have more time to market for more things to more clients. So don't be afraid, as I tell people, don't be afraid to raise your prices. I also highly recommend that every year you go back and review. And you know the old 80-20 rule? I've reversed the 80-20 rule. There's always 20% of your clients that give you 80% of your problems. Okay? And interesting enough, when I talk to my clients, I've always, and what do I do? What I tell my clients, how do you resolve that issue? You have two ways to resolve it. You fire them, just flat out fire them. Say, nope, we've come to a pass here. I can't do business with you anymore. So at the end of this cycle, we're going to be done. That's one option. It works, and it's more than likely most of those clients will say, okay, I wasn't getting anything out. Then they'll come back with all sorts of excuses. The other option is raise your prices. Then they'll say, oh, I don't want to pay that much, and they'll leave on their own. It's highly recommended. I tell all businesses this. You need to review actually you do need to do more than that, but you need to review what you're charging your clients every year. I always tell people, when you go through the budget process, and everybody does go through a budget process, right? And your budget process, though it should be year-long, typically starts in September, October for the coming year. You also look at what you're charging your clients, what your margins are. I also tell people every quarter you should go through and review your charges, your expenses. Okay, this is the accountant in me. Go through it, and most people don't do this. That's why I'm trying to give you an idea here. Go through those expenses and decide, do I really need this? Is this something that I have used in the last 90 days or will use in the forthcoming 90 days that are benefiting either me or will end up benefiting my clients? And if the answer is no, guess what? You just made more money that month because you got rid of an expense you're not using. And it's typical. It doesn't surprise me. I talk to a lot of small business owners. I'll ask them, how do you know you're doing okay? I woke up this morning, I looked at my bank account, and there's money in the bank. I'm doing great. I kid you not. If you don't have a good set of books, you don't know where you are. And it does not take an accountant or CPA to get a good set of books. There are bookkeepers that will do it at very nominal charges. You can do it yourself. I tell people you do it to yourself until it's taking up more time, more of your valuable time. That's when you hire somebody else to do it. I tell clients all the time, if you want to get larger, you have to delegate. You cannot do it all yourself. If you try to do it all yourself, you'll always be at a plateau. If you're doing it all yourself right now and you're making $100,000, you cannot get to $250,000. It's just impossible. You cannot spread yourself that thin. You can't do that many different tasks at the same time. You have to delegate. I tell that to a $100,000 client, I tell that to a $250,000 client, I tell that to a $500,000 client. If you want to get to the next level, you have to delegate more. Every step of the way is a different type of delegation. So there's different processes. Don't and everybody says, well, I don't want to hire employees. Okay, don't. Get yourself a virtual assistant. Get yourself, hire a printing company to do certain things. Hire somebody to answer the phone. You can contract with all that. Eventually along the way, though, if you want to increase the size of your company, you will eventually have to hire employees. Yes, it takes on a whole new area of complications. But I always tell people, if you want to be successful, you have to work on the business, not in the business. If you're working in the business, you can't work on the business, and you'll never increase your bottom line. I think we got a couple of minutes left for questions. Just about. So, anybody got any questions?
That's a lot of good information. As far as if you are working from your experience, because you well, I was actually going to talk about
I'm sorry.
your spreadsheet.
I can start it again.
I mean, you showed the impact of raising the price and so on and so forth, and then in your goal seeking, goal planning tool, which very much support of. In fact, we have one on our Business Growth Network.
Right.
That the thing is, if you have the worksheet or whatever, you can actually go through and look at the impact of moving different things, as opposed to increasing everything
Right.
10%. I mean,
I would highly, I would.
you
I
could say, I want to, do you recommend starting with obviously the pipeline, the leads?
Yes.
Kind of looking at, okay, how can I increase the number of, or what, or is there,
Well,
I guess it probably depends on the business.
It depends a lot on the business, but I mean, the two areas that I would look at, I look at leads and conversion rate. How many, and break the number down instead of 1,000, make it 100, make it 10. If I talk to 10 people, how many do you close? How many do you make a customer? And if the answer is 2 out of 10, what can I do to make it 3 out of 10 or 4 out of 10? Because that in itself will make a huge difference. If you take 10 and you were closing 2 and all of a sudden you're closing 5, look at what your increase is going to be enormous. You won't recognize it. And then the other key is, is this how often, what's the frequency? Is it every week, every month, every other month? I hope it's not every year, unless you have a higher dollar value. Now, part of that's going to be too. It's much easier to sell a $10 item than a $100 item, and much easier to sell a $100 item than a $1,000 item. So that all plays into its part too. The other issue that is always beneficial to have is have more than one offer. and you always start your offer at the highest. So if I have a $1,000 product, that's my top product, that's my offer. 1,000's not quite. Well, I have this other offer, but it doesn't get you quite as much for $750 or $500. And find that, and so, or you can say, or we can, you know, you know, you can always look at the idea of adding side pieces to it. I mean, you want to, who's got some of the best offers around from a standpoint of looking at side sales? Anybody? How many times you go to McDonald's and you get a meal, right?
Right.
You bought a hamburger, oh, and we'll add on a drink and fries for another $1.50 or whatever it is. Now, what do you think those fries and drink really cost them? Not $1.50.
Well, the thing is, to the average sale value, I mean, I think that the one thing that you kind of hinted at there, which I think people need to think about, is it's not just if you're selling a widget for $100, now you're going to sell it for $110. It's not. It's the average value of a transaction.
That's correct.
Okay, so you can actually expand your transaction from like a single sale to a value-added sale where you actually are adding a value meal, and you use McDonald's, but it's really like if you're a consultant or I mean, even if you're just selling an actual product, you can look at things that you do around that sale that you can monetize.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
So
well,
that can
or-
increase your you don't have to have more customers, you have to have more clients,
More
you have to have more
you have
sale per
sale-
client, per
right.
transaction.
And the other option of another way of doing it, and an example I didn't bring up here, which we could have, let's take a florist. Okay, so somebody comes in to buy a bouquet, Valentine's Day, right? They came in for Valentine's Day. All right, well, you got Valentine's Day, you need flowers. You got Mother's Day, potentially you got flowers. There's probably, you know, maybe you get flowers for Thanksgiving and maybe for Christmas, you know, and maybe for a birthday. Well, you know, we've got this club here you can sign up for. It's free to sign up for it. And we'll send you reminders, or better yet, you know, we'll give you a 10% break in the cost if you sign up now, and we'll send you tell me what value bouquet you want, and we'll send them automatically. You get his charge card, and you just made 4 or 5 additional sales over the year for a sale he came in for one thing, and that was for Valentine's Day. So it's just a matter of looking at what you can offer and figuring out what can I add on to it. And the other idea is don't just look at what you can offer. Find somebody else that might offer something that would blend well with your product line and do a joint venture with them. So that you say, well, let's put a package together and we'll sell the package. There's an example I've got 2 restaurants. One restaurant sells a meal. It's a $40 meal. Gives you a $20 or 20% discount. So that $40 meal becomes what? $32. Other restaurant takes a different route. They sell you the same $40 meal, but they include a bottle of wine and a dessert. It's a $6 bottle of wine. That's their wholesale cost. That's really a $12 bottle of wine. And the dessert costs them $1. They sell it typically for $2 or maybe even $4. So now all of a sudden, you've got a client that says, wait a minute, I got a bottle of wine and a dessert for $40. That's a $52 value. Or more than that, or $54. Yet it's costing the restaurant the same cost, the $8 that the other restaurant discounted. Now, who's going to perceive the better value? I get so many people that say, well, we'll put it on sale. We'll save 10%, 20%. It works, and in some commodities you have to do that. But it's much better to add more value to what you're offering than to discount.
Great.
Any other questions? Anybody wants to talk about marketing? I'd be happy to sit down and talk with you. I also do process improvement and some other areas, communication stuff that small companies might need. There's my contact information.
All right.
And I'm on the list too.
Great, thanks. All right, Elliot, thanks.
You're welcome.
And I think the important messaging there is, first of all, you got to know the numbers. And for those that are part of the Business Growth Network and are connected with us already, there's actually a template out there that is very similar to what Elliot just went through. And again, that's stuff, and I appreciate you offering. Elliot gave a really good example, by the way, of what I'm looking for training. This is obviously stuff that he has to have as you're coming in to work with him in your business. These are things that he helps you do, essentially, if you're a client, for free, in ultimately doing business with you. With me? And so as you're thinking about potentially training or helping the group in your area of expertise, don't get hung up on, okay, I'm in here to make a sale. I'm in here to help you be a possible client by educating you and giving you information to know that you need to have this kind of information, know what you would do with it, know what the value would be, but teaching you how to do it. Because some people aren't at a point where they're ready to buy from you because they're not educated enough in the things that they need to before they get to you. So they just don't. So by educating people from a business standpoint on things that you know that they should know and things that would be beneficial to them, whether they do business with you or not, you can create a 30-minute presentation or 30-minute talk that could ultimately establish you as an expert. Now, do you think Elliot feels a little more like an expert to you now than he did before he walked in? I mean, yeah, he said he was, but we got to see it live, and the Facebook Live people got to see it live. You with me? So that's why it's worth the time. And like I said, there's still a template out there. We've got a template on the Business Growth Network, and I've got some copies of the stuff that the training that I did that teach you how to do what Elliot's done and what I've done, and some other people in the room, which, by the way, I appreciate. So anyway, let's give Elliot a hand again. And I do appreciate you guys doing that. We'll do some. We got time. We're going to go ahead and do thank yous. Those who've been here before Wednesdays, you know what that is. Not an advertisement or anything, but just thank anybody for any business that you've done. And then at the end, we'll do a couple announcements, and we'll be done. Okay. All right. Let's start over here and just.